it rises by 1 time the volatility is 1%, how much would it rise by? 50.5. Right? So if 1 times the vol, it rises by, suppose this level was 50.5, which is 1% volatility. Alright? If I'm defining my vol as 1%, alright? If my market moves in my favor by 1 time the vol, I will add to my bet. Most people at this point in time will cut. जैसे 50.5 हो गया, 50 पे इंटरेस्ट किया था, 50 पैसा मिल गया, right? Time for me to get out of the trade. Most people will do that. Alright? Without realizing the fact that you have a stop loss which is like 2% and your take profit is only 1%. Right? And you are playing with a kind of trade where you are only successful 30% of the time. If 30% of the time you make 1% and 70% of the time you lose 2%. Right? What is the net? You can do the calculation in your head and you can see you will be, at the end of the day you will end up losing money. And this is even after being systematic. Right? So the idea is, if you have a 2% as your stop loss, the moment the market moves up in your favor by another 1%, 1 time the vol, you need to add to your bet. You need to add to your quantity. Alright? And the only reason why I am telling you to add to the quantity here is because these kind of trends will exist for a very short period of time. And when they exist, you need to go on. You need to go in with a good size. Alright? So at 50.5, I will add to my bet. So I will add one more quantity. So now my total quantity becomes 2 quantity. Alright? And at the same time, what I will do is my stop loss, which was at 49, I will also move it up. Right? So here, because the market is moved up by 0.5%, my stop loss here would also move up by 0.5%. The idea is your initial bet that you had placed, which was at 50 rupees, right? In case if the market falls down from here, from 50.5 it goes to 50, you lose money on this trade, you lose money on the second bet that you entered, and your first bet basically comes at par, right? And if the market continues to fall to a 49.5, you end up losing money on both. Alright? But because we understand that these kind of trades will happen for a very short period of time, and whenever they happen, given the fact that if they happen and they happen in a good side, and if you add to this bet, more often than not what will happen is you can do the math at the back of your head that 30% of the time you enter in 3 times the quantity. Alright? So here you have entered twice. You can enter one more time if the market goes again in your favor by another 0.5%. Sorry, goes up by another 1%. Alright? So at 50.5 you entered with one quantity. Again at 51, you add one more quantity. So totally now you've got 3 quantities with you. 50 pay you entered once, 50.5 pay you entered once, and 51 pay again you entered. After that, no need to enter because the juice is basically, that is where the juice is. After that the juice becomes. So at one time the vol you have entered at 50.5, another one time the vol at 51 you have entered. Alright? Now you've got 3 times the quantity. And at the same time, as in when the market is moving up in your favor, you are moving the stop loss up. Right? The idea of moving the stop loss up is basically the fact that you want to keep whatever juices remaining. So suppose from 54, suppose the market goes to 54 and starts retracing back. Alright? And it retraces all the way back to 49. You don't want to be in a situation where you cut here after having such a substantial amount of profit being made. Alright? So if you move your stop loss, if this was at 54, your stop loss will come at 53. Why? Because 2 times the volatility, which is 1 rupee. Alright? So if your stop loss comes to 53, the moment market goes from 54 to 53, you've got 3 lots at an average of 50.5 that you cut at 50. So the advantage here is from 50.5 to 53, you have entered into 3 times the lot, which is as good as saying that if you had entered only 1 time the lot, you would have made 9 rupees. From 50.5 to 53 is like 2.5 rupees, right? So 2.5 rupees multiplied by 3 times the quantity is like 7.5 rupees is what you would make. Right? But the idea is because these trends stay for a very short period of time, you need to do this with good, right? And you need to keep moving the stop loss. Alright? There's a very classical book, there's a very classical article, if you read at some point in time, it's called Turtle Trend Following. It's one of the most systematic sort of a trend following strategy ever made. Right? And these people used to make like crazy, some 1000% returns yearly by trading commodities and trading treasuries and trading currencies based upon this simple phenomenon. Nothing complex. This is basically exactly what they use. Enter into the trade, add to your bet, keep moving your stop loss. But most of the time what happens is with us is we enter into the trade, थोड़ा सा profit हुआ निकल गए, थोड़ा सा loss हुआ निकल गए, थोड़ा यार ये तो चलता है. Right? And that is that is the kind of psychology that we basically need to get out of and start becoming more and more and more more and more sort of systematic in our behavior in terms of what we do.
What is the book name?
Turtle trend following. Just type on Google turtle trend following. You'll get a PDF which describes that.
So you have told only one way. If you see last 4-5 trading session, HDL, IBRCL, all these are falling. All the mid caps are falling almost 10%,
yes.
7%.
Correct.
Before you see January things, all the analysts are giving buy call on HDL, saying that 105 above, take buying chance for 125, 150.
Correct.
But you see buy at 120, 115, and the next day you see 10% down. Where do you keep your stop loss? This is what you said. Only a practical way you said. It's only one way.
Correct.
Tomorrow you come and see, and your stock is on 10% down.
Correct.
And what do you give the investor for a stop loss?
Correct. Good question. So what do you do in the case of that kind? See, the first thing you basically need to do is you need to understand that these kind of stocks, like again it becomes very very stock specific. Stocks like HDIL, IRB, and IVRCL. These kind of stocks have got you are in a situation where these kind of stocks have got so much of promoters diluting their own stakes into these companies that you end up having a situation of this kind. So what we basically do in our company is that stocks which has got this kind of typical behavior, right, where again strategies will vary from stock to stock. That is the first thing I told you when we started this. What you do is these kind of stocks you trade only in trade. Don't carry your position. The more you carry the position in these kind of speculative stocks, the more is the chance that you will be either up 10% or down 10%. So you will open below your stop loss limit and you will cut your stop loss. Right? But the idea is if you don't get into speculative stocks, if you are into the blue chip stocks like L&T or ONGC or Reliance, something like that, right? The chances that you'll end up having these kind of bouts are less. So if you are having a longer term trend following system, right, which are going to last for days and days and days, you want to be in blue chip good stocks which are not impacted by these kind of events. Of course, even in this you'll have a situation like Infosys, right, where basically on the day of announcement it's either going to go down 15% or going to go up 15%. So you need to understand that and not trade Infosys before the day of earning announcement. Right? That is something which will come from practical experience. But if you are trading very high, this kind of speculative stocks, it's always better to do it in trade, not to carry over the position. So even if you are advising your clients and things like that, you advise them for the intraday for these kind of stocks, right, and not for carrying over the position. If you're carrying over the position, you either do that in currency, you do that on Nifty, you do that on blue chip stocks, chances of losses are less. Alright, but these stocks which are like a gap down and up opening of 10 and 20%, we never carry.
But HDL is not that much, like above 4% or 5%, below that it never used to. That just because of the rumors promoters are selling, it's 10% up, and the next day also 10% up, continuously keep on falling 10%.
Correct.
So you don't get the stop loss where you have to put it for your investor.
No,
so
you already know your stop loss, 2 times the volatility. Problem is it gaps down below that. Yeah. Right? And the moment it gaps down below that, you end up cutting. Alright? Now the idea is, see, whenever you do any kind of systematic trading strategy, it's always a good idea to diversify. Alright? You're not doing it only on HDI, you're doing it on 10 different stocks or 20 different stocks. The idea is if you're doing it on 20 different stocks, maybe an HDI will give you pain for a single day. But if all the other stocks are giving you good returns, or your strategy is working on, net you'll end up being in the positive trade. So the idea is whenever you do systematic trading strategies, you don't become specific to a given stock unless you know a lot about that stock. That's a different issue. But if you're doing it on technicals, right, anything which is to do with technicals and statistics and that, it's always better to diversify. Right? So if you have a basket of 10 stock on which you're doing this, and HDI is only 10% of that, and even if it falls down by 10%, your portfolio will get impacted only by 1%. Right? But if you have all your money put into HDI, then only got inflation. Alright. So the idea is basically to diversify. I think that is what is the key. Right? So in terms of risk management, again, if you read the turtle trend following, they used to diversify. So they would have, if they are trading, let's say, natural gas, they would not trade heating oil. Why? Because natural gas and heating oil move in tandem with each other. If you are doing crude oil, they not do Brent crude oil because they both move in tandem with each other. So idea is, if you are doing crude oil, you do gold. You do gold, which is different from doing a natural gas, which is different from doing a crude, which is different from doing a US Treasury, which is different from doing a Euro USD. So you are so diversified in your nature that no single trend or no single trade can impact your portfolio. Alright. So the more diversified you are, the more is the chance that probably one or two trades might go back, but not the overall two. That's basically the idea. Now, another important aspect of doing systematic trading strategies or developing systematic trading strategy is that whenever you develop one, right, you always need to backtest. Why backtesting is important is because there are two ways of basically looking at things in the market. One is you gain experience by losing a lot of money in the market. Alright? So you make a trading strategy, you put it live in the market, you lose a couple of lakh rupees, and then you understand that this is what I should not have done. Right? Typical way of doing this. Right? The other way of doing that is you backtest the strategy. You see historically over the last 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, has this strategy really worked or not? And if it has worked, then you go ahead and put your money into it. If it has not worked, why it has not worked? Can you improve it? That is the idea. Right? So whenever you develop any kind of systematic trading strategy, and again when I say this, these are very simple rules. You don't need to develop software, you don't need to do a C++ or a Java programming or anything like that. Even in Excel you can do a backtest. You can end of the day data, end of the day prices you get from everywhere. You get it in Nifty, you get it on Yahoo Finance, you get it on Google Finance, you get it everywhere. So doing a backtest on any of this data on end of the day prices or open high low close is not a big deal. It's a very simple thing. Right? So let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of backtesting and why the kind of pitfalls that people have while doing a backtest and how you can basically improve upon them. So I started working. And I was very new at the desk, and I was given this assignment of doing systematic trading. Right? So I was given this assignment of making trading strategies. So I had this guru of mine who told me that Manish, I've seen a very simple sort of a pattern in the Nikkei market. Nikkei is the index of Japan. Just the way Nifty is the index of India, Nikkei is the index of Japan. Right? And just the way we've got Nifty futures in Japan, you've got Nikkei futures. Right? The Nikkei futures is the second most liquid future instrument in the world after the S&P mini. So and everybody trades Nikkei futures. Right? So I was given this assignment where he told that I've seen this Nikkei market over the last a number of years that whenever the market gaps up, and Nikkei market invariably will always open wherever the US market closes. So if the US market closes 1% up, Nikkei will always start from 1% up and then it will go its own way. Why? Because US closes and then the Japan Australian market starts. Alright. So whenever the market gaps up, so this was the rule he basically gave to me, that whenever the market gaps up with respect to previous days and goes up by certain X%, alright, goes up by certain X%. If we short the stock, if we short Nikkei futures, right, and we have a certain stop loss and we have a certain take profit, right, this particular strategy works most of the time. So the way the strategy was made, it's an intraday strategy. So the way he basically explained to me the strategy was, he told me that this is my previous day's close. Alright, this is my previous day's close. Suppose the market gaps up. Alright, so market opens up. So this is today's open. This is where the market is open. Goes up by X%. Alright, so this is the previous day's close, market is gapped up, gone up by X%. At this point in time, we initiate a short position on Nikkei futures. Alright, we initiate a short position in Nikkei futures, and then we have a stop loss which is at certain Y%. We have a certain take profit which is at Z%, right? Or in case if your stop loss or your take profit is not reached, then by the end of the market, which is at 3 o'clock Japan time, we unwind the trade. So it's an intraday trading strategy where we take the position at this point, have a stop loss, have a target profit, and we unwind by the end of the day. Alright? Now he gave me the strategy, so all I needed was the open high low close price, nothing else. So I took the open high low close price and then basically started doing the backtest. So I took all of this data, into my Excel. This was 2004, so I took 10 years of data from 1994 to 2004. Because being in a company like Merrill, the data was easily available. So I took 10 years worth of data and I started doing the backtest. Now after I did the backtest, I basically optimized and found out, what should be the text for this X, how much should be this Y, how much should be this Z, so that we end up making, consistent sort of thing. And, after a certain amount of optimizations, I basically figured out, if you would have done on this particular X number and Y number and Z number, every day on Nikkei futures, we could end up making 20 yen, right? Now it's as good as saying that every day Nifty futures you could have made 20 yen. It's as good as saying that, right? Now making 20 yen in a country like Japan for Nikkei futures is huge. Like it's as good as saying that on $1 million you'll make $20,000 every day. If you put $1 million worth of trade every day, you'll make 20,000. So this is basically, so I figured this out and I was like, wow, this looks really good. It looks like another Archimedes principle. Unfortunately, there's no Archimedes principle in the market, right? But that is what I thought at that point in time. And I saw this, the strategy looked really good, took it to our MD, and I showed it to them and they said that, this is a strategy I've come up with, what do you think? So he saw the backtest, he saw all the results, and he was like, yeah, this looks great, if you make 20 yen every day, Nikkei, what's wrong with that? So let's start with $1 million. And once we start seeing that, the performance is good, we'll increase the size. So we started this with $1 million. And every day that we used to do this on $1 million, we consistently kept on making sometimes 20,000, sometimes 40,000, sometimes 5,000, sometimes negative minus 10, whatever. The average was coming to about 15 to 20,000 rupees, $15 to $20,000 every day. Right? And it so happened that our book went to about $500,000 in a matter of few months, in a matter of about 4 to 5 months. And suddenly I become the blue-eyed boy of R&D. That, oh my God, the moment he did the desk is making $500,000. So everything was going good, everything was going great. The book had reached to a size of P&L of almost about $800,000. And it so happened that after it reached $800,000, our MD decided that we should increase the size. From $1 million, we should take it to at least $5 million per contract that we do. All right. And then what happened was one fine day, 2005, Nikkei broke through a very critical resistance level of 12,000. The moment Nikkei broke through that multi-year resistance of 12,000, just like in our Nifty, the critical resistance right now is at 16,6060. The moment it breaks that, probably will do something really good. Right? So 12,000 was like a multi-year resistance for Nikkei. And one fine day it just broke through that resistance. Alright? And the moment it broke through that resistance, it never used to stop. Every day it used to gap up and go higher. Gap up, go higher. Gap up, go higher. And I used to follow this rule every day. Alright, and if I follow this rule every day in a market which is rallying from 12,000 to 18,000, what would happen to my P&L? It would go down from plus $800,000, my book went down to minus $200,000 in a matter of few months again. Alright, and now this started panicking. I was like, oh my God, I made like 800 grand and now I'm like back to being minus 200 grand. Right, so my MD calls me and he says, what happened? You're doing such a great stuff, and now all of a sudden, market has gone from 12,000 to 18,000. Gaps up, goes higher. The stop loss of mine of whatever Y% gets hit almost every single day. So I did not know what to do. I did not know what to speak of, and I went back to my drawing. I went back to my books and so I didn't know what went wrong. I'd done such a great backtest 10 years, 20 years looked nominally great. All of a sudden, I see this drawdown of nothing. So I went to my guru, the person who had given me the idea for this. And I asked him that, I've done this backtest, I've come up with the strategy, made good amount of money, lost all of it. What do you think? Why something like this? So he told that, Manish, what is the period you have taken for doing the backtest? I took the period from 1994 to 2004. So he told me, from 1994 to 2004, the damn market of Nikkei was in a completely bearish market. It went all the way from 35,000. Nikkei went all the way from 35,000 to 8,000, right, in a matter of 10 years. Now, any sane person in the world will tell you that if you short a bear market, you will make money. right? Any sane person would tell you that if you short a market which is a bearish market, you would end up making good amount of money. So here I am in a dilemma that I have taken 10 years of data, I have done the backtest. But the problem that basically he pointed out was the fact that I had taken a very biased. I had taken the data of only the bearish market and I applied my rules. Alright. So in a biased market, which is basically the bear market, when I applied my rules of shorting the market, I made phenomenal amount of money. But I did not consider the fact that what happens if tomorrow a bullish run happens. Tomorrow if there is a bull market, because I did not have any data for bullish market. I had data only for the bearish market. Right, so I applied on the bearish market. The moment there was a bull market from 12,000 to 18,000, I did not know what to do. It was like, a losing streak. So the idea is, whenever you do any kind of practice, whenever you do any kind of work, the most important aspect is that you do not want to take a biased data. If you take any kind of biased data, your systematic trading strategy will face the problem that it will work for certain kind of market, it will not work in certain kind of market. More often than not, Murphy's law will apply here. The moment you start putting your market in live market, you're going to have a drawdown. You have a drawdown, you think, alright, it's not going anywhere, let me stop, let me cut, let me get out of this. Alright, and after you have cut, it will start moving. That is what happens most of the time. Alright, the idea here is that if you take different kind of market